Thousands of years before cities, roads, or organized governments existed, the American continent was a massive expanse of raw, unforgiving wilderness. This land was the domain of megafauna. Mammoths and massive predators owned the environment, making it a place where humans were not the masters, but intruders. Into this unknown stepped the first humans, arriving in small, isolated family bands, walking into a territory that offered no safety net. They carried nothing but what they could hold. Every calorie had to be found or fought for, leaving them heavily outnumbered by the wilderness and entirely dependent on the seasons. Long before the rise of great empires, the history of the Americas was defined by a much simpler struggle: the brutal reality of surviving the next 24 hours. Daytime was a relentless physical grind. Nomadic life meant moving constantly, expending massive amounts of energy to track game and gather enough wild berries to stay ahead of starvation. Every stop required intense manual labor. Men and women waded into streams to fish and spent their limited daylight hours building primitive shelters from whatever wood and hides they could scavenge. To bridge the gap between vulnerability and survival, these early people relied on Stone Age technology, a sophisticated intellectual toolset that allowed them to manipulate their environment. The process began with finding the right raw materials, like these rough fragments of flint or chert. Through flint knapping, a maker would strike these stones at precise angles to flake off edges, a skill requiring years of practice to master without shattering the core. The finished product was a slender spearhead like this one. Its razor-sharp, fluted edges allowed a single hunter to pierce the thick hide of a mammoth, securing enough meat to feed a family for weeks. These stones were then bound to bone or wood using animal sinew and resin, creating versatile knives for butchering, hide scraping, and daily utility. Mastering these physical and technological tools provided the leverage needed to move from being wandering targets to becoming the continent's most effective apex predators. At night, the priority shifted. A campfire wasn't just for light, it was a life-saving barrier against predators and the freezing prehistoric air. Survival relied as much on social coordination as it did on sharp rocks. Deep family bonds and the ability to work as a single, cohesive unit were the only things preventing isolated bands from being erased by the elements. The firelight served as a classroom. Storytelling became the primary data transfer system, where elders taught children how to read animal tracks, find water, and remember landmarks across thousands of miles. This cultural knowledge was often recorded visually, with reddish-brown pigments used to paint scenes of hunts and spiritual beliefs onto canyon walls, documenting a growing connection to the land. This combination of psychological resilience and shared knowledge allowed these small groups to endure the immense pressures of the wilderness. When this cycle of survival is repeated over thousands of years, a single family's struggle scales up into the movement of an entire people. This map shows the slow generational spread of these populations. As each 24-hour loop was successfully closed, descendants pushed further into the unknown. Some groups migrated into the dense, high-altitude evergreen forests of the north, where they adapted their hunting methods for rugged terrain and limited visibility. Others followed river valleys into the heart of the continent, modifying their tools and lifestyles as they encountered massive mountain ranges and new ecosystems. Eventually, humans reached the arid badlands and plains, where they mastered the extreme heat and the unique challenges of surviving in jagged, rocky environments. This relentless generational expansion successfully laid the deep foundations for the unique traditions and cultures of Native America. Against nearly impossible odds, the mundane daily struggles of scattered nomads resulted in the human occupation of an entire continent. This stability provided the baseline for a surge in cultural and social complexity, setting the stage for the rise of America's first great unified culture.